Some of you might not know this, but recently I've been making a documentary on the toxicity of TikTok and the toxicity of diet culture. And I wanted to make this video because while making that documentary, I've noticed a common thing that a lot of people do, and I want to talk about it.
Something her and I have been working on is comparison, particularly when it comes to other women in the gym or women she follows on social media.
Our clients sign up with us and state that they want to look like this person or even me sometimes.
This video will be talking about toxic diet culture, so if that's not your thing, you should probably check out. And it'll be a laid back video. There's not going to be a lot of editing, so if you just want to play it in the background or whatever, I'll tell you if there's going to be a video or something while talking. So the documentary will probably be out in August, September. I've already lost 32 pounds while recording. It's like a timeline of going through what the algorithms do to you when you decide that you want to lose weight or whatever. And the thing that doesn't make the documentary and what I want to talk about is how many people start their weight loss journey or their transformation journey comparing themselves to influencers or celebrities.
This was one of the top comments on that video. I used to think I had a mid physique until I started comparing myself to actual people that I see instead of famous people. Comparison came.
A common thing that I see online is, oh my God, you look so beautiful. I want to look like you. I can't wait till I look like you. And I think this idea sets a lot of people up for failure. I think it sets a lot of people to spiral and not live a healthy lifestyle. What I mean by that is I think a lot of people don't know how bodies work. For example, and I'm going to use myself because I think using other people would be toxic. I'm only going to use a few examples in this video, but unlike if they have a lot of videos, because I don't want to pick on someone who only got like 100 views or something. They didn't really sign up for people using them as an example. If I personally on this weight loss journey and I decided, hey, I want to look like this male influencer, this male fitness influencer who has like six pack and all these other things, you know, I'd be setting myself up for failure because our bodies are not the same. We store fat differently. We are different people. We have different genetics. And what that means is that I could lose 60 pounds and I could be at a healthy weight. I could actually be at like 15% body fat and still not have a six pack. To show you an example of this guy who just went recently viral, and he went from being obese technically to being 9% body fat. If you look at his videos, he still does not have defined abs. He barely has like a 4-pack if I had to guess. He doesn't have a 6-pack and he's 9% body fat. And that's not like crazy. I mean, I wouldn't say that's really abnormal. A lot of people just don't have ab genetics. A lot of people don't have defined body. What I mean by that is, so like if you're a woman and you set yourself up and you're like, I want to look like this influencer. Oh, I'm going to lose 30 pounds and I'll look like she does. You're setting yourself up for failure. It is technically possible and probably realistically the case that you guys are probably only like 10 pounds apart. Like the average person, you're probably only like 15 pounds apart, but she just stores body weight differently than you do. Let's take this real case example that happens to a lot of people. So you start out your weight loss journey and you're like, yo, I want a 6-pack, or yo, I want to look this certain way. Like I want to look like this influencer. I'm going to lose 30 pounds. And you start going and you go, and then suddenly a lot of people do hit that goal. They hit 32 pounds or whatever. And then they get there and they're not what they wanted to look like. They're not their idealized version of themselves in their head that they were going to look like when they started their journey. And after that, they're like, okay, well, I'll just lose more. I'll just keep losing and losing. And soon enough, at the end of the journey, I will look like how I want to look because this influencer said that she's this weight and I want to look like her. So all I have to do to look like her is get to that weight. Or a lot of men do this where they're like, I want my biceps and triceps to look vascular. You know, they'll lose. And then they'll like get to that point where it's like, well, you don't look like that. And the thing is that you're just never going to look like that. Everybody's genetics are different. Everybody stores fat differently. You know, there are people, and this is why I said if you had problems with dieting, you should look out of the video because there are people who are really fat who look skinny. One thing a lot of people get wrong in this discourse is they think that fatness is like actually matters on the scale. It doesn't. Fatness is a look. Fatness is somebody who's been fat all my life. Fatness is a look. Looking skinny is a look. It's not about what's on the scale. That does not matter. And a lot of people think it does. It doesn't. And so what I mean by that is there are people who they just have skinny faces and they store most of their body fat and like their legs. For me, I've always had like a jawline, but I've been overweight all my life, but I've still had a jawline. I just don't store fat in my face a lot. I store it in my legs. And some people just store it in their face and they're at a healthy body weight, but they don't look quote unquote healthy to society and society standards. And the reason that that's important to say is that everybody's genetics are different. Everybody's body is different. Everybody stores weight differently. It's because you might try to lose weight and you think that you're going to lose weight and you're going to look like this person you have in your head. Like you're comparing yourself to this person, or you're comparing yourself to their diet. They might actually be heavier than you and they just look skinnier than you. There is plenty of people who I know for a fact are heavier than a lot of people think and they look skinny. which and never gets talked about. Like it's never like a big thing. People always focus on the scale, and I don't know why. It's really weird, honestly. I see this in men's fitness a lot. Like a lot of people think don't realize like what 205 pounds of all muscle look like. You know, there are people who like they bench 300 pounds and they only weigh 140 because most of it's muscle. For as much as people lie and say like you should care about your weight because of being healthy or whatever, it's mostly about looks. And that's why people who look skinny but are technically actually fat, they never get criticized. Nobody actually cares about those people because they pass society's standard and their norms. And a good example of this is Ice Spice. And I'm only using her as an example. I think she looks good both ways, but it doesn't even matter what I think. But society as a whole, when she got skinnier, when she got to a quote unquote healthy weight or whatever, people said she looked worse. And why is that? And why do people say you need to gain it back? You need to get big. You need to get big again. It's because her genetics, the way that she stores her weight, is what society likes. They don't care about the scale. They don't care about how she looks or how her actual health. They don't even care about how much she weighs on the scale. They just want the look that she has when she's at a higher weight. That's all they care about, the look.
Personally, like I like Ice Spice with the weight. I don't like Ice Spice when she was on that Ozempic wave. Like, you know, her and Ariana Grande, however you say her name, they got this thing going on where they trying to make, you know, that slimness be a thing. And it's cool if you're Tyler, you know, but only really people like Tyler can really pull that off. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like that look for Ice Spice and Ariana Grande. Now,
That's why this conversation is so hard to have, because even a lot of woke people, you know, they focus on the scale, and the scale is not important. It's the look. It's the look that society cares about. And that's why a lot of people start to spiral and they get like obsessed with like the scale, but you have to remove that from your head. It does not matter about the scale. It matters what you look like to society. And you have to come to terms with that you're never going to look like the person. You're never going to look like the influencer because they had $1 million of work done, or maybe they were just blessed to look that way. I'm never going to have biceps. Like my bicep, I curl almost 100 pounds. You can't even see my biceps. That's just my genetics. Like there's nothing I can do to fix that. It just is what it is. You know, it's like people who say they have sleeper builds. Until they flex, you don't know that they work out. And that's just their genetics. That's just what they're going to look like. People have to come to terms. And when the easiest way to come to terms with this is when you're first starting out, you have to, in your mind, you have to decide, hey, I'm going on this journey because I want to see what I want to look like when I lose weight or I start working out or whatever. You can get nicer looking legs. You can get more defined six pack. But at the end of the day, that's just marginal. You're going to look what you're going to look like no matter what, unless you pay for plastic surgery. So you have to accept that. You have to internalize that. You cannot go down this weight loss journey trying to become somebody else that you think you're going to look like Kim Kardashian. You're not. Men do this a lot in the fitness industry, and I see it a lot. They're like, oh, I'm not going to train my obliques because they want like they want their body aesthetically to look like a V-shaped. You're not going to get that. Like you are genetically capped. Like it doesn't matter if you don't train your obliques or not. Like there are certain things that you can do marginally to improve your aesthetics. But at the end of the day, if you're 6'3", you are technically, from a bodybuilding perspective or a bodybuilding aesthetic, going to look less muscular than a guy who's 5'5" or 5'4". And that's just the truth. There's nothing you can do to change that. But because influencers are not honest about what they look like, what surgeries they've had. Like I know a lot of men who have had ab sculpting. You know, it's rumored that Drake has had ab sculpting. I don't know about that. That's just a rumor. If you have a blocky waist, Drake has a blocky waist. You can't change that. There's no amount of training. There's nothing you can do to change that. That just is the way that your body is. And I think people should stop lying to people that you can look like me if you lose weight, or you can look like me if you do this exercise, or you can look at me. No, you can't. You can look better. You can look different. You're going to look the way that you look, the way that your genetics have capped you. That's just it. Because when people don't accept this at the beginning of their journey, I see it on TikTok all the time, they start to spiral, not only just with trying to lose weight, they start spiraling with, okay, I got to do this exercise. Okay, I got to get into yoga so like my obliques look better. Okay, I got to do this, and this. And finally, I will look like the influencer I want to look like. Or finally, I'll have amazing biceps like the influencer I follow. No. There's no, maybe you can get your biceps to grow more, or maybe you can get nicer obliques. Maybe you can do all of that. But at the end of the day, you're genetically capped. Like when you start your journey, you have to accept that. You have to accept, I'm going to look like a different person. I don't know what for me, for example, I don't know what my abs are going to look like. I could have terrible looking abs. I've never had them before because I've always been overweight. I don't know. But if I started this journey, I was like, I'm going to have the most aligned, perfect six pack ever. And then after months and months, I'm finally done with my dieting journey and I do not have the perfectly aligned, perfectly shredded six pack. I'm going to be disappointed. I am going to feel like I didn't accomplish something because I set myself up to fail from the very beginning. I set myself up for this expectation and I set myself up for this imagination of a person that doesn't exist, that can never exist, that there will never be a version of that self that exists. I literally just seen this happen to an influencer. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to be toxic, but he went on this diet. He had 1,600 calories. He lost 20 pounds in like 2.5 months. At the end of the diet, he looked good. He looked shredded. He looked like summer ready. He was good. And then he was like, no, I'm not happy with it. I want to do more. And he set himself up for failure because at the beginning of the diet, he had this version of himself that he was going to look like because he thought that after he bulked for like the entire year, that he was going to have way more muscle or be way more defined or whatever. I'm not in his head. I can't say. But what I can say is that he set himself up for failure because, you know, you can't enjoy what you just did. Hey, you just got done with dieting. Hey, you just accomplished something that a lot of people fail at. Enjoy it. Be happy with it. You just did something cool. You accomplished a goal. Like, you look good. Everybody else thinks you look good, but you yourself are not satisfied with it because you set yourself up for failure by comparing yourself to an idealized version of yourself that's never going to exist, or an idealized version of a celebrity that you don't know what filters they have. You don't know what money they invested in their plastic surgery. You don't know. You set yourself up for failure. You have to learn to love yourself and to love the journey. That's like, for me, there's not like a number. There's not a number attached to it for me. It's just like when I think it's done, like I think I look good in the mirror and I'll just be done. I don't have like an attachment, like I got to lose 60 pounds. I got to lose 100. Like, even though that would be profitable for me if I said I lost 100 pounds in 9 months or like 7 months or like 5 months, you know, that would be profitable. But that's not like, I would set myself up for failure if I defined my success by losing this amount of weight and not what I personally feel about myself as a person, if that makes sense. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Click here for the next one. Have a great day. Peace.